Hi everyone, my name is Renanta and welcome to my channel. Today I have prepared a fun project for you based on the PaperArtsy blog topic Art Dolls. The stamp sets which inspired me for this project are PaperArtsy stamp set designed by Nicci Battilana. I hope I pronounced that well. I will stamp these images using Versafine Onyx black ink, and I will color them using Prismacolor Premier pencils. When coloring with colored pencils, I tend to start from darker shades to kind of mark in where the shadows would be, and then I slowly work my way to the brighter colors. As you can probably see, I always tend to keep my color swatch next to me so it can help me decide on the pencils that I will use. I genuinely like working with color pencils because they give me a feeling of control, unlike, let's say, watercolors. But also, some of you might know me, I even better like to switch between my mediums. Layering a colored pencil is genuinely a very slow process. This, which you are seeing, was quite a bit sped up, so it is relaxing, but it also requires some patience. While showing you a bit of my coloring process, I would like to use this opportunity to mention that you can find the links for all the products that I will be using in this video in the description box down below. Now that I have put the base color on my doll's shirt, I wanted to blend in these colors a bit, and I will be using odorless mineral spirit and a blending stamp. I know some of you are worried about toxicity of the odorless mineral spirits, so instead of this you can use a blending pencil or brighter shades to blend. But the reason why I chose to work with the odorless mineral spirit is because it lets me layer more color on top of my blended colors. But as Prismacolor Premier are wax-based pencils, sometimes when you use blending pencil or a brighter shade, it just kinda burnishes the color, and it doesn't let you layer more colors on top of it. Anyway, that's just something to be aware of, and at the end you just choose the blending technique you feel most comfortable with. Now, if you take a closer look at the stamp set that I have chosen, you can see that one of the dolls doesn't have a lower portion of the body, so I decided to draw it. If you read my blog, you know that I tried to draw a little shorts and a skirt, but at the end I opted for the shorts. Now I won't bore you with the full coloring process of all the elements. Instead, let's skip to the fun part. Here are my dolls colored and fussy cut. But one thing that I wanted to remind you, if you want to make your fussy cut elements look a bit more neat, use any kind of brush pen to go all around the edges, and it really somehow helps it all look more professional and neat. Now, in case that you have read my blog, you know that I wanted to make a sort of a doll theater, so I decided to work with the shadow box. This particular one is from IKEA, and it's 25 by 25 centimeters. So those are also the dimensions of the paper which I wanted to use as a base for my background. I also wanted to make my background look a little bit of vintage, to have some organically laid colors, so I decided to work with watercolors. And here you can see me mixing a couple of different colors until I got the shade that I wanted for this project. For my paints to move more freely, I decided to apply a lot of water on my background, as you can see right here. And that ended up giving me a really beautiful and also very evenly laid out color, but that's not what I wanted for this project. So soon you will see me that I will use a cloth to lift some paint off and make some really random and maybe a bit weird brush strokes to give it more grungy effect. And of course, to complete the look, a couple of splatters. Now, after drying the first layer of paint, I will move on to adding the second layer. And as I imagined, the stage lights would leave an area brighter, somewhere toward the middle, I decided to add the darker color more towards the edges of my substrate. And again, I will make such brush strokes to give it a bit grungy effect. This whole process using the darker shade of brown I will make twice until I achieve the color and the effect that I wanted. After the watercolor layers were done, I still wasn't 100% satisfied with the colors of the background that I have achieved, and I wanted some more warm tones, so I decided to use Distress Oxide inks. First color that I am applying is a vintage photo, and I am applying it all over my paper. And I think it really helped giving my project that bit warmer tones. The next color that I use is Ground Espresso, and this time I will color only towards the inner edges of my paper. And then finally I will use the black Soot, but only on the very edges of the paper. Now I was finally happy with my background, but it was time to add some details. For that I have chosen these two lovely stencils from PaperArtsy, and with the first one I will add some spider web. I wanted my spider web to be visible but still discreet, so I chose Lindy's Stem Gang Magic Moon Pearls embossing powder. Now I have to be honest, this ended up a bit too subtle effect for my taste, so I had to figure out a way to emphasize it a bit. So I ended up using gel roll pen to add some highlights, and I think that really helped. And also, while I had the embossing powders at my hand, I will emboss a couple of spiders as well. So now the background was done, the mood was set, so let's finish up the dolls. Assembling the first doll was somewhat bit messy process, so I decided to show you the second one, as I have a little bit refined my methods. Here I decided to attach the neck and the body using a brad, and I picked this one in heart shape, as I thought it could look as a little choker necklace with a heart-shaped charm. On the first doll you can see I have a regular brad on the neck, but later on I will replace it as I really like this heart-shaped one. There is multiple ways to assemble your dolls, and some of those depend whether you want your doll's parts to be movable or not. So you can use something like a crocodile with eyelids. You can use metal brads like I did, or the thread like I also did, or you can just position your dolls, stamp them that way and just cut it out in one piece as well. And that would make the whole thing much easier. I enjoy having various textures, so I decided to combine two techniques using the brads and thread. Here, as I covered with the coloring where the little holes should be, I am trying to estimate and measure up so on both legs it would be on the same place so it would look more symmetric. And soon I will use a needle and a simple black thread to connect the leg pieces. The thread stitching method I use to assemble the elbows as well, but instead of cutting the thread short as I will do for the legs, on the arms I will leave it longer. As the quarterly topic for PaperArtsy was transparency, my idea to interpret that was to make a hidden puppet master in the theater. So I needed the strings to hang from the dolls so they could technically be moved. The long strings I left at the shoulder and arms of the dolls. Now that my dolls were assembled, I had this idea to use a 3D foam tape to give them some illusion of dimension, but as I still wanted my dolls to be movable, I didn't remove the protective layer. Instead, I just left them to hang and be more smooth on the background. I hope you know what I mean. Anyway, I also needed to secure these strings, so that from the frontal look it would look that someone is holding them from up. And for that I just used the simple transparent adhesive tape. And honestly I was glad that I used this low-tech tape, because later on I needed some modifications while positioning my dolls as I wanted them. For the last step of this project, I needed to make curtains. As you know, I wanted to make a stage-like scene. So for the traditional theater look, I chose this red-colored, little bit grungy-looking fabric. Now, as I wanted to tidy up those edges of fabric, and I didn't have the sewing machine at hand, I decided to use my fabric glue, and you can see what happened here. But hey, this stuff kind of happened, so it was luckily easily remedied. With the wet wipe I removed the extra glue and the rest I just spread out with the brush. Sometimes when we watch some creators on YouTube or other platforms, everything looks so easy and perfect, but trust me, these kind of mishaps happen to everyone. Just with the power of video editing, we can hide some of those mistakes. Anyway, now that the edges of my future curtains were nice and tidy, I decided to do a little bit measuring and cut out the textile in the size and shape that I want. Oh, and I also find these two little tassels which I have from God knows where, and I thought they will really help give my curtains more curtainly look, if I can say it that way. I did a lot of fumbling and tumbling here. Honestly, I don't know why is working with fabric such a struggle for me. But anyway, it all looked great at the end. And luckily I had my little baby assistant here. Now that the curtains were made, I needed to adhere them to the inner frame of the shadow box. This time I picked to work with the glue gun, which ended up quite messy work for me, but it was all good at the end. It was a bit unfortunate angle to record it, but here at the end you can see my finished curtains and my messy glue gun work. And now this was about it. The last thing which was left for me to do was to assemble the project. And the outer frame of the shadow box will kinda cover all these imperfections with adhering the curtain anyway. The PaperArtsy blog topic art dolls was really fun, so hop to their blog and you can see some other fun and creative ideas from my PaperArtsy team members, and I promise you, you will find inspiration, abundance, and you will not be disappointed. I will leave the link for the blog in the description box. So I hope at the end you enjoyed my creative process. I hope I managed to inspire you, and to see you soon again. Bye!